The Media Project.
Excuse me, do you mind if I join you? Are you sure you don't mind? You're absolutely sure I'm disturbing you?
The BBC would like to announce that the next scene is not considered suitable for family viewing. It contains scenes of violence involving people's heads and arms getting chopped off, their ears nailed to trees, and their toenails pulled out in slow motion. There are also scenes of naked women with floppy breasts. And also, at one point, you can see a pair of buttocks. And there's another bit where I'll swear you can see everything. But my friend says it's just the way he's holding the spear.
Hello and welcome to the Mental Suppository. I'm Bret Herholtz. I'm joined by Andrew Shanley, Lisa Billings, Brian Brown, and Ainsley Waller. And we are continuing part 3 of our discussion this week.
An entire security crew and some really scared ladies.
You see, when I was Austin Powers, I would go into the bathroom and I would start yelling, "Who does number 2 work for?"
Oh, so
good. I was there for that.
So good. Did people blush in the restroom?
I remember people laughing their asses off as I walked out of the bathroom, because then they saw me and they're like, "Oh, I got that joke now. I get references.
I get stuff.
I got stuff. I know things."
People make friends in the men's room because people make friends in the women's room.
No, we just kind of do our business and then get out because we don't really want to be there.
Each other in the women's room.
We just do our thing. It's kind of like, we got a mission, we do it, and we get out. It's like running away from the boulder.
People that talk to other people in the men's room, you don't want to talk to
public women's restrooms, primarily at concerts, and literally come out and then just gotten drinks with the ladies that we met.
Wow. No. See, I know that I've seen other people do that. I normally don't, but I appreciate
1 or 2 drinks in. So,
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Probably if I dropped something or I needed something, I know that with the tone and the vibe in the women's room, I could be like, "Someone have a tissue?" They'd be like, "Oh yeah, here, and here's the tissue." Whatever it is. It's very
whatever you need.
Very nice.
You'll get the random guy that's like, "What's up?"
Not much. How you doing? Not much. How you doing?
Nice.
Hey, what's going on, bro?
Oh, Dragon Con!
Oh God.
I am so wasted.
And if you're the type of guy that's like, "That's my dude, I want to know him," then I guess. But that's not normally me.
I don't. Who wants to know that guy? That guy's the 3 sheets.
There's a lot of situations where doors don't close in women's rooms, and so you get the whole train of women holding the door shut for the other women.
That's so nice.
Usually, yeah. My favorite restroom story though it does involve fandoms. Was I was at Disneyland, and we were all excited to go see Star Wars Land or whatever we were going to do, and the ladies' room was unusable, broken, something had happened. And it was an area where we all we knew we were going to be a while between restrooms. You had to kind of travel in these carts and there are a lot of kids and stuff. So everybody at Disney just sort of, without saying anything to each other, decided as a huge group that we were all going to use the men's room together and nobody was going to say boo about it. And we were going to be fucking adults and we were all just going to do our business and use it as a bathroom, and everybody did, and everybody was awesome, and my belief in humanity was restored.
That's good.
Well, Disney World is kind of like one of those, they don't really care.
The happiest place on earth, even when you're using the bathroom.
It's the safest space I have ever been in, which I hate to say that, it sounds so corny, but it's negativity is not allowed. Do whatever you need to do as long as you're nice.
I need a little Disney right now.
I think we could all use. I think we could all use a little Disney right now.
I agree.
I was disappointed that the bathrooms in Galaxy's Edge were not Star Wars themed bathrooms.
Oh,
can you imagine we'd have one for Wookiees?
It's just
the
giant,
Wookiee room,
super tall.
The urinals were just a line of droids.
Well, Carrie Fisher was tall. Carrie Fisher was told there's no underwear in space, so.
That's right. They did tell her that.
They had to tape her down because she's like, I've got gaffer's tape on, and they're like, and Mark Hamill's like, why? He goes, because George Lucas told me there's no underwear in space.
Well, I mean, they do have underwear. They're just called. They're like in the Return of the Jedi. That's what the underwear looks like in space.
Yeah,
it looks like a,
but that was
bikini
on a
thing.
Planet.
Yeah, a hot planet.
It's a hot planet.
That's not very comfortable underwear. I can't.
No,
it feels like it would be pointy metal.
Why do I get the feeling George Lucas said was watching Star Crash? Caroline Monroe's thing in Star Crash, saying like, I'm gonna sue that movie, but I really kind of like what she's wearing, and maybe I should incorporate that into my movie.
I think he did.
I think the thing about that movie is people don't like the connotation slave Leia, which I agree. I like to call the slay Leia because she does kill Jabba the Hutt.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I've had someone explain it to me in their point of view in an interesting way about that scene, which it's a bit controversial, but I liked this person's take, which was they were like, this is an empowering scene. She takes the very chains that she is chained up with and kills her captor with the tools of the capture.
Down with the patriarchy, man.
Yeah, she really just is like,
the whole thing was very Frank Frazetta.
It's very Frank Frazetta. And
you're right.
The costume designer was into that kind of thing because I went down a rabbit hole of that film and why the costumes really do look like a Frazetta painting. And she was obsessed with this kind of like 1930s, 1940s sci-fi pulp covers. And so that's where a lot of it comes
from.
Sort of
like the Dale Arden costumes from Flash Gordon in parts.
Well, I mean, that's where Lucas and Spielberg got. That's exactly where Lucas wanted to make. He wanted to make Flash Gordon, but he couldn't get the rights to it, so he did Star Wars instead. What a move that was. I don't know if it worked out for his career though. Where is this George Lucas today?
If he made, Could you imagine where he'd be now if he had gotten to do Flash Gordon? Oh my God, the riches.
Dude, I did a cosplay. I did Ming the Merciless from that movie.
So fabulous. I did Ming the Merciless's daughter from that.
Oh my God, that's too awesome.
It's so awesome. It was such a fun costume to wear, and unfortunately I wore it so many times it's like in shreds and gone.
That was one of the cartoons as a kid I really enjoyed watching on Saturday mornings was the old Filmation Flash Gordon cartoons.
I don't think I ever saw that.
I don't think I ever did either.
I remember
they've been playing it on Pluto TV, but I think you can it's free on streaming and all that. But it's like
you can get those.
It's very much like the Alex Raymond drawings, and I mean, I think they originally wanted to do it as an animated movie. Filmation wanted to do it as an animated movie, but I mean, like everything, probably didn't have the budget, so they ended up breaking it down into a Saturday morning television series. And it's got a lot of the people who did voices for Filmation, like Alan Oppenheimer, who went on to do Skeletor, doing a very Skeletor voice for Ming the Merciless.
Skeletor,
I'm gonna get you, Flash Gordon. It's like, holy shit, it's Skeletor.
I want to play with this Earth.
I saw a great interview with
Flash Gordon, you boob.
I saw a great interview with him because I guess the guy who played He-Man was very shy, and he goes, people aren't, he goes, I'm nothing like He-Man. He's like, no shit, and I'm not like Skeletor. Big deal.
Guys, I need to step away from it for 1 second. My cat needs an insulin injection.
We understand.
I'll do it.
She needs a shot.
I'll do it.
I'll stick around.
No, we understand. We had an elderly cat at one point.
Good job
we had
being
to.
a good cat. Being good cat parents.
Exactly.
Good kitty parents. That's how it is.
I have a vet that comes to the house because my cats are such psychos. They can't travel in the car.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So they came to the house and dealt with my cats. I have. She'll be 19.
No cat.
Oh wow!
One of them is almost 19 and one of them is 12.
That's about almost the age of Ruben. So Ruben was 20.
Ruben was 20 when he
passed.
That's
old.
Yeah.
I have a dog.
Yeah, Jamie and I got her the first summer we moved in together.
Oh really?
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We have a
dog.
Tam's
16. Oh, you have a dog. Oh.
Yeah, his name is Snoopy. And we actually inherited him from our friends who died last year because of COVID.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because we had 3 of them actually. They died, and it was a whole family. It was a horrible experience. She was a health coworker, godmother of my kids. Met her the same night I met my wife. She got COVID. She went home. She gave it to her mother and to her brother. They both died, and my wife had to make the decision to unplug him. It was terrible.
That's horrifying.
But we received the dog, and the dog has been dealing with a little trauma since, because he was a rescue originally. And of course now he's with us, and he's doing quite well, actually. He's a sweet dog. He follows us around everywhere, though.
Oh, yeah, he probably is a little bit of a Velcro doggy because he lost his family.
Yeah, because I'll tell you the truth. Every single time my wife goes up to sleep, he just goes up there and sleeps with her. Or like when I'm sitting alone at watching TV, he comes right up, he nuzzles right up next to me. He's like a Beagle Terrier mix.
I love beagles.
He's a sweet dog. He's a real good dog.
We had a beagle when I was a kid, Bumper. She was a good dog. I think she was a former mother, and she got along well with the cats we had. The cats just thought it was a really big cat, and she just thought they were very small dogs.
I'm just not a cat person myself because cats are kind of crazy.
That's why I love them.
Oh, my cat will rip your face off. She's 18
see?
years old, she'll rip your face off. Absolutely.
I get
my
it.
sister.
Some cats are. My cat's
totally
sweet,
evil.
But
But she's lovely. Her name is Fizzgig.
That's a good name.
Do you know the character that I'm referring to?
Dark Crystal?
Dark Crystal.
We were just talking about that a couple days ago.
Yeah, we were.
Yep.
Oh, what was I going to say?
Yeah. It's unfortunate that my other cat's name is Nala. But I didn't name her. I just felt guilty. We rescued her, and I felt guilty renaming her. Like, I was like, oh, that's her name.
Nala's from something, right?
Nala's from The Lion King.
Oh, from The Lion
King.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in so many years. I don't even
remember. Not super. Oh my God. Clearly I've been living in like toddler world because I've seen every Disney movie like 1,000 times at this
point. So what do you guys, what's your take on the live action versions of the Disney movies as opposed to the animated versions?
I haven't watched them.
I just ignored
them. Some of them are good and some of them are not good.
I mean, I saw Maleficent. I thought that was interesting.
Actually, I take that back. I did see Maleficent. I did think Maleficent was very good. Maleficent 2, not so much, but the first one, very good.
It's funny. Sometimes that's the way, but not always the way, because it's like everybody says, the sequels are always the worst, but that's not always the case. Empire Strikes Back was a great movie. The second Batman Returns wasn't bad. Superman 2. I mean, if you think about it, there are second movies that are actually really good second movies.
I think the big issue, obviously, is that they take the animated movie that they made in the 90s and then they throw it back into today, but it's live action. Beauty and the Beast, I didn't think was very good, though. It was just like, it didn't, I missed the music. You know how they would always have the music in those movies? And now the new ones.
Had music?
Huh?
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, it did. It did.
You just didn't like the music.
I just didn't like the way they did it. I thought it didn't have the same. I thought that with the animation, it worked a little bit better with that. That because you can do a lot more with animation, you can do with live action. I think. And
it's why when they redid Cinderella, they just took out all the mice, and I was like, I get that it's more of the original story, but the whole thing about the Cinderella from Disney is the damn mice are so cute and awesome and fun.
Cute. Yeah,
well, didn't the original story of Cinderella have the sisters get their eyes pecked out by birds?
Well, yeah, and they chop off
the
their
original.
It's a Disney movie.
The slippers, and then they don't realize that that the shoe doesn't fit until the shoe fills with blood. So
leave it to the Germans.
Yeah, let's do that for a Disney movie. Yeah, that'll really be good for kids.
They definitely had to clean up most of the fairy tales that they ever.
Oh yeah.
Put on.
It's no Song of the South, that's for sure.
Oh boy, that's a fish and a half.
I mean, I'm gonna go out and say that I actually did enjoy the live action on Aladdin, and you can trash me for it if you want to.
Well, we won't.
I never saw it. I have no.
I haven't either.
Oh.
I mean,
you have to just accept that it's not Robin Williams.
Yeah, that's the thing. Robin
Once
Williams
we accept
has.
that it's not Robin Williams,
Yeah.
Then
and
you
that
miss
it's
him.
Will Smith,
roll with it.
Yeah,
you
miss him.
just kind of go with it.
Okay,
Um,
I will buy that.
I thought it was
Yeah.
pretty fun, actually. You know, it's not.
I think one of the big issues, obviously, is like people overanalyze crap too much. You know, like they go so nitpicky, like they have to even like analyze the syllables of the word for crying out loud. You know, it's just a movie.
It's true, and I think the more emotional attachment a person has to whatever the franchise is or the original film, the more that nitpickiness tends to come up.
Yep.
So, like between Brian and I will allow a million plot holes, reality suspended for things that I'm just along for the ride for, like a lot of the Star Wars where I just sort of like let go of it. But if you're really have this deep feelings about it, that's when the like you're taking out the microscope and you're talking about, well, what about this? And that's not even with this character and that character. They didn't do that in the last movie. Why are they doing it in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think that's kind of one of the things that Marvel both does well and has an advantage because they're so relatively recent and they're not like using stuff all the way back, you know, to the 70s necessarily, except for the characters.
Yeah.
They know that their audience is made up a lot of super hyper anal retentive nerds. And
No, not us.
and they play to that side of things,
Right.
where they're like, we're going to feed you little reference after little reference so that you feel good, and we're going to think through all the implications of each Marvel universe and all of that kind of stuff. So
well, recently with Doctor Who, I mean, they changed the backstory and the continuity with the character, and a lot of people lost their shit over that. But on the other hand, if you know, people are saying, well, this flies against everything they've sort of created over the years. It's like, well, the continuity of Doctor Who was kind of created over time. It wasn't like suddenly the characters was fully formed when it came out.
What did they change? I'm not sure I'm picking up.
It's
the
kind of
reference.
complicated, but there's a lot to it. But
Yeah, they sort of expanded upon that. You know, there's more to the Doctor's beginning than what's been said in the past.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, but it's one of these things, that whole continuity wasn't
But
there.
it was always kind of developed over time. You didn't know
Exactly.
the story the first like
it
two.
kind of regenerated how the
doctors, you
Time
didn't really know
Lords
what was
became the
going on.
Time Lords.
Well, in the beginning, there was no time, and when the show
Right, there
first
were
showed
no
up,
Time Lords
there
in the
were no
first
Time
place.
Lords. It was just the Doctor and this granddaughter were from
Yeah.
a future society, and they were said to be exiles, and you didn't know really much about them until the first actor, William Hartnell, was too ill to continue the series, and it was like, well, we either end the show now or we continue it. And so that's when they decided they give him this ability that he can change his form. And so he changed his form and went into Patrick Troughton, and it went on until Patrick Troughton decided to leave after 3 years. And then at the end of his time, that's when you suddenly discover he comes from this race of people called the Time Lords in his very last episode. And so this whole thing that he ran away from his people because he was bored, he said in that episode. And then like years and years later, you come to find out that they ended up, the Time Lords had like 13 regenerations in the episode The Deadly Assassin, and that's when that was sort of developed. So it's like over time all these things were created, and even with the new series, when Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat took it over, they started adding in their own bits of continuity. So it's sort of been built up over time, and it didn't really bother me that they sort of changed all these things, because it's like I felt like the continuity of the show is always in flux, and it's like even though they changed it now, I feel like another showrunner or producer could come in and it's like, well, it's not that way, it's this way, and sort of change it again. So it's always going to be, it's like anything else, it's always going to be in change, and it didn't really bother me as much. And it's funny because it's like one of the things they had the character of the Master telling the Doctor her backstory, and one of my friends referred to it as the Master's TED Talk, because it's like he's doing all the explanation.
Nice.
So I thought that was a great way to describe it. The Master's TED Talk.
Master's TED Talk. Yeah, I think with a lot of these shows too, when you have a property like that that's been going on as long as it has.
Oh yeah.
And you have to have new enough material to keep your old fans. You have to have things that will resonate with a younger audience as well. So you have to keep that up. Like, you can't forget that these things cost a lot of money. And if they're not pulling eyeballs, they're not going to be able to pay for their sets or their actors or anything else. So,
and unfortunately, that's what Doctor Who is kind of dealing with right now, because their ratings have been going down and lower and lower and lower. I mean, I don't want to, look, it goes right back to what you just said about eyeballs being on something. So, like, you got to make sure you got those people watching, or you're going to lose what you're going to do. Because, again, there's a big adage in the business, which is it's called show business. Without the business, there's no show.
There's no show. That's right. Yeah, and if you have good writers and that kind of stuff, and it all works out.
Yeah.
But and I haven't watched Who in a while. I have to be honest. I got a little bit into Capaldi and hadn't watched since then. No specific reason. Just taking a break, like no shade.
That's understandable.
There's just so much stuff on now.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and good TV, right? A lot of really good stuff. But like that, I would hope, and you could tell me that, like, if a series like that changes the details but keeps the spirit of Doctor Who, what Doctor Who is, it's about adventure, it's about time travel, there's some emotion, there's a splash of romance, like, then you can feel good about it. Same with Star Trek.
I think what people have been upset about is not so much the actress who's been playing the Doctor. I mean, I think every actor or actress who's played the part, it's never really been them. It's always been the writing, and some of the writing in the current series has been hit or miss. But it always has been. But at this one, it's been more miss than hit. But the funny thing is, the episodes that have been really good have been really, really good. Especially, it's been the historical episodes have been really spot on.
I think, to be honest, the first season of Capaldi is pretty rough. I think it's hard to get through that first season of Capaldi. You're also in shock because Capaldi is just so different.
Yeah.
But
he was definitely...
I feel like he really comes into his own.
Yeah.
And he ends up being one of my favorites of the modern people.
And he's just really nice in real life. I got to meet him a couple times, and he's just a very nice guy.
I hoped that he would be.
Yeah,
because
he's what you'd expect him to be.
He has that sense of lightness about him.
The last season of Matt Smith made me feel like, hey, if you're not gonna take us seriously, neither am I.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
And then I was like, but I was so invested.
Doctor Who is life.
No, I know it's Doctor Who, but it was like I'm so emotionally invested in it. Like, and like I was along for the ride. I was in it, and then at the end, I was just like, what? Oh. I felt like I was like, we had this thing, and then like I did my thing, you did your thing, and then you did something, I don't know, different.
It's hard to break up with a franchise, you gotta see other franchises.
Although Capaldi's season had, one of the great things that came out of Capaldi's season was Michelle Gomez as Missy, who just, plays a female version of the Master who's just completely batshit crazy, and she's just wonderful in the role.
I would like to see that.
Yeah. Speaking of different shows.
I don't know, and I have to speak highly of the companion Bill. I love Bill as a character.
The pairing of Bill and Nardole, I thought worked really well. That those three.
Yeah.
It's time for us to go back.
It's time for us to take another
literally,
look.
we were watching when it came out.
Yeah,
same here.
And then Matt Smith, and I was just like, I just can't. I need to step away and do other things.
The last season, Capaldi's last season, definitely watch it. I think that's his best.
His last season, it's probably one of the most intense last seasons, I think, of any of the characters.
Check it out. Go back. We'll go back.
Hey, what about Wanda Vision? Did anybody see Wanda Vision yet?
Yeah, I just wrapped up the season.
Not yet.
I've watched all the episodes.
So have we. We won't do spoilers then.
No spoilers.
Don't worry about it. I'll watch it eventually.
No.
It was Darth Maul the whole time.
I think of the first 3 or 4 episodes sort of a slow burn that kind of rolls and kind of like builds up and then finally crescendos at the end. My original, I remember just watching like the first couple episodes going, what is this? And not really having a very big...
you have no clue.
Of what the heck it was going to be. And then, of course, it rolled into the characters. And I think, again, that show kind of like exemplifies one of the advantages that Marvel has, which is that they have the ability to like have all these different characters from all these different shows and all these different movies and everything else like that, and they can really work very well together.
And just what was saying about the continuity between the things. I mean, just the whole series was Easter eggs of things meshing into each other from old movies.
Which
exactly
characters.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's kind of what
it was so cleverly done.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what at least the DC Comics shows have done that the movies haven't. The Arrowverse shows with like the Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they had like flashbacks to the old Michael Keaton Batman movie. They had a cameo by Burt Ward as an older version of Robin the Boy Wonder. They
wild.
That is
which
wild.
It was actually really, and actually they had a cameo by Marv Wolfman, who wrote the original Crisis on Infinite Earths comic book.
Yeah.
And he actually asked for the Flash and Supergirl's autograph in the scene, just saying, and there was a point where he said, I never got to say the line, but I kind of wanted to whisper in their ears, like, I'm sorry I killed you both. Because he ended up originally killing Supergirl and the Flash in the original Crisis. But
I think that Wanda Vision, I think is a perfect television show.
Yeah.
I really like.
That's what I hear.
Nothing but if it just like, because what they were able to do was to go, okay, so how does Marvel do TV? So we can't do a lot of what we know. And yes, we've got the great characters in the writing, but like the big like budget for the CGI and all that kind of stuff, like you can't do that on TV. So how does Marvel do TV without stepping into tropes and all the TV stuff that comes with the baggage of doing TV? Oh, let's do them all. Let's do every TV trope and make that the underlying plot of the show, like the driver for the plot of the show.
Yeah.
It's genius.
It is genius. And for someone like me, I don't know all the Easter eggs for Marvel. Yeah. So I'm like, I caught a couple of them. That's cool. I'm glad they're there. I know that they need to do it for the deep fans, like, My Good Buddy at Work and all that kind of stuff. However, also, you don't need them. You can enjoy the hell out of that without knowing any of that stuff, because they do excellent character work. And for me, like as an old school TV nerd, and like I used to do costumes and makeup and hair and that kind of stuff, the way that they nail every single era of television that they bring back to life, it's just an enjoyable ride.
Well, I can say
from experience, Ainsley has done my costume and makeup and hair.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. Yes,
I just remember as a kid watching shows like Dick Van Dyke After School. Yeah. So seeing stuff like that was just like a recreation of what something I used to watch.
Talk about algorithmically generated based on nostalgia, which is
exactly
the era that we are in. That is literally Nick at Night's TV lineup.
That was Nick at Night's TV lineup. Yeah.
From up until you get to Malcolm in the Middle, but that was one of the best parts of the show, which was just like every episode when it started after you got the game. 2 episodes in, maybe 3, you get to guess what show they're doing.
Yep, that's the game we played too. Ooh, oh my gosh, they're talking about this is definitely Modern Family. They're definitely doing the breakaway Modern Family fourth wall thing.
Yeah.
And then Agatha all along. I was just like, oh, that's a good theme.
Good. So good.
That was great. And the ending didn't disappoint.
I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, there were obviously some flaws in the character, and there's going to obviously some depth in the character. And I think that one of the good things about WandaVision was that it really kind of presented her as a flawed, but wanted to be a better person. And she did something out of pain that was therapeutic.
Well, from what I hear, it supposedly sets up for what's going to be the next step in the Marvel movies.
Really well done. Yeah, I think that's the next season. I think I liked, obviously, spoiler here, but the inclusion of Quicksilver from,
I know about,
20th Century Fox version of X-Men. And I was like going, oh, please.
Yeah.
Please let the convergence begin now.
And I didn't watch any, and Ainsley, I didn't watch any of that stuff. So we don't I'm not a huge Marvel fan. I'm not a Marvel nerd. I know the stuff.
Yeah.
I read a few things, but I just don't. I have friends that are just like, oh, this is obviously a connection between all these things that happen in the books. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I didn't watch that show either. And so everybody lost their fucking mind when Quicksilver showed up. Because they're like, it's the first time they're all coming together. And then he was like an actor.
That would be so awesome to see X-Men done Marvel style. It'd really be great. Because I don't know what your feelings are about the X-Men series from 20th Century Fox. There are some good parts. And there are some bad parts.
I agree. It's mixed.
I like.
It's got Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart.
Those are probably two of the best parts of the series.
I think a lot of the characters and the actors are really well done. I feel like the plots are a little bit less consistent.
I think they focused a little bit too much on Wolverine over the course of the series.
Well, that was around the time Marvel was starting to get
Wolverine.
Yeah.
Well, that was around the time Marvel movies were starting to get a little more big budget because before that we had like the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie. We had like that one Captain America movie that it was direct to video. We also had the Roger Corman Fantastic Four that was filmed but was never made. So that was Marvel before the Marvel Cinematic Universe kids.
I think Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man with that was done in 2000. That was the one that really set off people.
Yeah,
it really set it off.
That's
like,
when it started.
This is high quality. This is fun. We can generate excitement. We can
it's Sam Raimi.
Tons of tickets.
And we can generate money.
Sam Raimi. Yes.
And that was the best, pre-modern era Spider-Man movie.
Because unfortunately,
the first one was directed by Sam Raimi.
Because the unfortunate thing about Hollywood is the only reason why they do anything is because it makes money, and that's unfortunate. And thankfully, it was the success of that one film that kind of perpetuated it to go to Spider-Man 2, which I think is another brilliant film.
Again, here's another part 2 film that again, people saying, oh, the sequels are never as good as the first one. They always ruin in the sequel, and Spider-Man 2 is a good sequel.
Very good sequel.
Amazing Spider-Man, I wasn't really impressed with, as I felt like it was a rush job so they could keep hold of the license. And then Amazing Spider-Man 2 was really a mess. It felt like a mess, especially when they have Rhino finally showing up at the end, and you're gonna have a big, huge fight, and then credits.
I love the genius of Welcome to the Enter the Spider-Verse.
Oh, that was fantastic.
That was
amazing.
I thought that was fantastic. And you know what? Honestly, that's another example of what you can do in animation that you can't do in live action.
Right.
I think that's why
level.
That's why I think that's where the DC universe has actually really thrived, is like the Batman the Animated Series and all those cartoons they did all the way up to the Justice League cartoons.
Yeah.
That whole, they could sort of tell a broader story, and I think they also really delved into like the comic book history of the characters, whereas a lot of the movies kind of haven't.
And some of those DC
that's why
animated
the Justice
movies,
League movie didn't kind of do it for most people.
That's the thing. A lot of the Justice League movies, like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Lisa, but the stuff with DC when they did the animated stuff, like, they're PG-13. They're not really always for kids. Like, there's like the one that like it's called Red Sun with Superman. Instead of going to America, he's raised in Russia and becomes a Russian superhero.
I think that was based on a comic book series or a graphic novel. So.
That's a good one. That's pretty good. That one, and I saw the movie. It's really interesting. It's
actually the adaptation of Dark Knight Returns isn't bad either, which has RoboCop Peter Weller as Batman, the voice of Batman, and the actor, I think his name is Michael Emerson, who was in Person of Interest, plays the Joker in it, and it's really well done. The only thing it lacked is that they didn't add in Batman's inner monologue that they had in the comic book, and I think that was kind of like one of the things that made the original graphic novel, part of the original graphic novel. But it was, the animation wise, it's definitely up there.
Oh my gosh, brilliant. What was that, Brian?
I said everybody likes those Lego movies. I haven't seen.
I haven't seen the Lego Batman.
Oh my god!
I've heard they're excellent.
I saw Lego Batman. That was a lot of fun.
I saw Lego Batman in the theater, It's like, I'm the Batman. Let's play the really, really hot mix of my stuff. I got 9-pack. Oh my God.
Actually, another silly Batman animation that I really loved was Batman Brave and the Bold, with Diedrich Bader as the voice of Batman. It's very much Silver Age Batman, like 1950s, a mix of like 1950s Batman with Adam West Batman, but he just, but it's Batman who punches everybody.
I love that cheesy Batman.
It's great. It's just it exactly is that, saying, you're going to feel the hammers of justice.
Oh my gosh.
It's such a great series.
What does everybody think of the Snyder cut coming out? Anybody gonna watch it? Anybody looking forward to seeing a 5-hour version of Justice League, but it's recut and reshot?
I haven't even seen the first one.
What does that mean?
So when Zack Snyder was making Justice League, you know how the Warner Brother executives, they took over control of producing the film, and they took it away from him after his daughter died, unfortunately. So Joss Whedon?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Joss Whedon took over directing. And so they completely changed Justice League to try to be as much of a Marvel film as they possibly could. And then they re-released it. They released it. It did horribly. And so for years, people have been talking about release the Snyder Cut. Release the Snyder Cut.
Oh, I see.
So there was this big, huge fan thing. And so, the executives at Warner Brothers are like, oh, it doesn't exist. We threw it away. It's been burned, et cetera, et cetera. But AT&T... As
if there's anything to burn anymore.
I know, right?
It's called the delete button.
Exactly.
So the executives at AT&T say, hey, we got this streaming service we need to put out there called HBO Max. We need content for it. What do the fans want to see? Oh, they want to see the Snyder Cut. So they overrode the executives at Warner Brothers. And so now they're releasing the Snyder Cut of Justice League, which is supposedly 4 or 5 hours long. I don't know why.
Well, probably because he didn't get a chance to sit there and cut the whole thing to begin with.
Well, Zack Snyder he needs an editor. And if you ever saw Watchmen, yes. He needs an editor.
He does need an editor. I liked Watchmen, but he likes to take his time with his shots and his scenes and his everything. He really does.
Oh, yeah, he does.
I'd be interested to see how the movie works differently. To be honest, I don't remember what happened in that movie. I saw it, but I don't remember.
I saw it.
So you're having flashbacks like in The Last Jedi,
I'm like, okay, I vaguely remember Aquaman walking out of the water and then saying he didn't want to be a part of it and walking away. But I just I'm literally blanking on the movie, and I know I've seen it.
Well, then
maybe I was pregnant when I saw it.
Excellent.
Something about the Green Lantern blowing up Romulus.
But it's Jason Momoa.
It is.
I love me some Jason Momoa, but
I was almost run over by Jason Momoa at a convention.
What?
Yeah, my wife,
his car or his car.
Did he throw an axe at
himself?
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
My wife and I were walking through the convention hall, and I thought it was this guy who was doing a really good cosplay of Jason Momoa, and he was. But then I realized the guy's in his street clothes and a lot bigger than the guy who was cosplaying as Aquaman, and I just said, "Holy shit, it's Aquaman!" We just both looked in that direction, and he almost flattened me. Not that he was. I think it was either running for the bathroom or something.
Can you imagine having a shoe print on your face, going, "I got an autograph from Jason Momoa."
Face,
you autographed my face.
Wow. Wait, so was it? Did they hand that movie over then to? Is that the one they handed over to Joss Whedon?
That's the one.
Midway.
That's the one.
Okay, so this is very infamous at this point because Miss Joss got into some.
Oh yeah.
Well, the whole DCEU as a whole has had its problems. Man of Steel underperformed. They weren't happy with that. Batman v Superman underperformed again. They weren't happy with that. Wonder Woman.
I fell asleep during that movie.
I would have fallen asleep too if I watched
literally
it in the
fell
theater.
asleep during that movie. And there's not a whole lot of movies I've fallen asleep during. That's one of them.
Wonder Woman kicked ass at the box office. It's the best one of them all.
I saw that in the theater.
That was a great movie.
great.
Actually, Shazam was really good. I enjoyed Shazam.
Shazam was good.
That was actually more of a Superman movie than Superman was.
Suicide Squad was another movie where they had David Ayer. He's a well-known director. He's done a lot of great things. And they literally took the movie away from him after Deadpool came out. They said, "We're going to make it look like Deadpool." So
I remember that. Yeah.
When you were talking about Justice League, I was like, that sounds familiar, but I thought it was Suicide Squad.
And then
twice.
And then the same thing happened with Justice League. They were like, "Hey, we're gonna make it like a Marvel movie. We're gonna make some money here. Come up, blah, 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 blah." And so they just basically, there were a lot of moves going on behind the scenes and stuff.
Yeah,
well,
they
you were saying,
cut it to be like a music video kind of.
Well, you said about Joss Whedon, a lot's
company.
been coming out about him. You find out he's not a very nice person.
Who, Joss Whedon?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's totally disappointing that he's such a creep.
Yep.
It's very disappointing. And I have a friend who used to be acquainted with him and would chat with him online and stuff like that. And she and I were big fans of the Whedon universe. All his properties.
I know. I've watched like all his stuff.
All of his stuff. I loved it. And then it came out that he, like, this was like some years ago, had cheated on his wife. So it's like, okay, well, that's unfortunate. These things happen. Too bad, whatever. But then there was like this whisper of creepiness around it. Like no one would say it right out, but they were like, and also, wow, he sure held a lot of power over some underage women.
Oh, that was the other thing.
Yeah.
They actually wouldn't allow one of the actresses who was underage on Buffy to be alone around him, and that's just...
Yeah, that's like you don't have to say anything else at that point.
Exactly.
Like, you know something was wrong.
Right.
Well, they didn't even say that directly, but now that that's out, it's like, well, that's exactly what that creepiness was.
It's like John Cristofalusi.
Well, it's just like,
he's another one.
Woody Allen. All that stuff.
God.
Ren and Stimpy.
And all that
I didn't
stuff
know he was also a creep.
He was. He was a big time bastard.
I mean, it's they support. It's like with Weinstein, and the same thing with Polanski, and the same thing with like Woody Allen and all this other stuff. It's kind of the unwritten rule of whoever's got the power, they'll protect or whatever. But now, obviously these guys are getting the comeuppance and they deserve it. But we don't know. It's kind of like finding out Santa Claus isn't real.
I know, it's really awful, especially when some of them have created such beloved work.
Yes,
I know.
It's really sad to think that.
Well, I think J.K. Rowling is the same. It's like people are so obsessed with Harry Potter, and before all of this kind of came out, where she was spewing very hateful things about people, I didn't read the books because they came out when I was in college, I think.
Yeah.
Same. I was a bit too old for that.
Yeah, I was in that weird age where I wasn't going to read YA books. I wasn't going to read a YA.
Yeah.
But I was thinking like, like when my daughter is old enough, maybe when she's like kindergarten, first grade, I'll read the books with her and it'll be so much fun. Mm-hmm. And now I'm thinking, I don't really want her to read a bigot's books. Like,
I think,
books.
the thing about it. Well, I think obviously there are people that make the assumption of, well, it's separating the art from the artist and that sort of thing. Artists typically through history have always been different people that have had problems with drinking, drug abuse. Some have sexual, innuendos and all this other stuff. It's just that kind of goes with being a creative person, because sometimes you go into those dark places to find the things that inspire you, but at the same time, I think one of the things we're living in nowadays is that so much stuff about people is so open and public.
You do learn more about it.
You learn more about them.
You learn.
I think the most disappointing thing about Rowling for me is that she was supposed to be a person that wrote for nerds, wrote for people that were different, that didn't fit in, and championed them into becoming heroes of stories. Yeah. And then she spoke against the same sort of people that looked to those stories to feel that they belonged.
But she's trying to make it like in a feminist sort of way, and it's like, no, it just doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Yes,
And
no.
I think that's also why it is. It's not like you can look at a Roman Polanski and that's sort of one thing, and you do have these larger questions of like separating art from the artist or whatever. Your personal opinion. Mine is like, okay, actually, that grosses me out, and like I can't with that. But at the same time, I'm not like no one should ever watch that movie. But with J.K. Rowling, I think it is that special thing because she was specifically, again, as you said, championing people who were othered. And for her to go out personally, nobody had to dig anything up on that woman. She came out and wrote a letter. She she did that all herself. It wasn't like someone found tweets from her 20 years ago.
She outed herself, essentially.
She outed herself, and she hung herself with her own rope, you know.
And there's art, and then there's commercial art, and those are like, there's a spectrum, I should say, right? So it's one thing to be like, yeah, Pablo Picasso was a total dick, but wow, wasn't the Blue Period amazing?
Right.
And actually giving somebody money, and like buying a J.K. Rowling book is giving her directly putting money in our pocket.
It's true. It's really different.
Yeah, and not only that, we're finding out about this stuff while they're alive and not dead.
Yeah.
Right. It's totally different.
It's totally different.
After they're dead, and you like, oh wow, I didn't know.
I mean, okay, like I heard there was like I don't know if you're familiar with. There was this guy who was named Seville or whatever. He was like a Jimmy Seville.
Yeah, Jim
was
fix
like
it.
huge BBC.
I know about this.
Lisa, if you're not familiar, this is a crazy story. This guy, he was like a personality on BBC for like 50 years. He was like the original host of Top of the Pops. He did all kinds of charity events for people. He had a show called Jim Will Fix It for kids. And then it comes out literally like a month after he died that he had been molesting kids, and there were like hundreds of victims. Like it was
and his kids show was like, I will come to your house and you will tell me all your problems,
and
I will come up with a way to fix your problems for you because I'm your best friend.
He was like, it's one of the most disturbing stories ever. And that happened like within the last 10 years ago. But, you know, now we're finding out all this stuff about people when they're alive.
Right. Right.
And that's, you know, it's scary, but it's also good to know. I mean, oh, I see a tail.
It is. It's such a cute kitty.
But that door swings both ways though too, right?
It's avoiding me all night.
Information that you can get on a person is equal to the about something coming out. That's also equivalent to the information that they can get about why they shouldn't be like that.
Exactly.
Right? You can hear about people's struggles with identity and gender and race and all that kind of stuff directly from them. Like all the information you need to know to understand somebody's struggles with things is available right there on the internet. So
yeah, people maybe too, like I think ego gets into it where people think they're just too big to fall, or they're, you know, they can do anything. They'll get away with murder, basically. I mean, and not that's exaggeration. That's more of Jimmy Savile, not J.K. Rowling. But like, and in some cases, it's like, okay, well, in a case where it's really extreme, like, wouldn't it have been great to catch a guy like that before he did that for 50 years? You know what I mean? Like, to know early would have been the thing to do.
The thing about the internet, and I'll say this, it's a lot like Austin Powers being unfrozen, and he loses the inner monologue. Like, literally, that's what the internet is.
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
Because that, you know, that's what it is. He's just like, I hope that everybody realizes I don't realize that I lost my inner monologue, well, because of the freezing process. You know, it's like all of a sudden, like, you know, if they just shut up.
Right, they wouldn't run into these issues. Or like read the room, maybe. Like, just read the room. You know who you wrote the Harry Potter books for.
Right, absolutely.
It's Gen Z and millennials. They're not going to like really enjoy this message that you're probably giving them.
Thousands of them, and I'm sure she's met thousands of like marginalized and underrepresented people as well.
Right. Can you imagine being like the champion of so many people like that, and then like literally just saying stuff that's completely against a whole swath of them like that. Like, these are people that paid your bills.
Oh, yeah.
All of
And
your
you've just
bills.
basically given them a big middle finger.
You just basically told them to go fuck off. And
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Oh.
it's pretty wild. And I think that is, in my mind, that's where the ego comes in, where she's like,
Yeah.
actually, I'm J.K. Rowling.
I could do whatever I want.
Yeah,
I
I could say or do whatever I want,
Right.
and nobody's going to question me.
She lost her inner monologue due to the unfreezing process.
She did. I love that. It's such
She
a
always
good
kind of look
analogy.
frozen anyways.
She
Austin
does-
Powers wins again. What can I
He
say?
does. He does. He does.
But yeah, so good. What time is it?
It's about 11 o'clock.
Holy crap, we've been
So-
talking for like
It
hours.
was actually Austin Powers that got me into The Prisoner, by the way.
Oh, that's a great show.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
The Prisoner.
That was a show I actually ended up finding out because my dad was a fan of that show. That was like one of those early British imports along with the Avengers. And
Yeah.
what's
We
didn't
want
see it till later.
information.
which
Number
also had
2.
You won't get it.
which also had Leo McKern in it as well as one
I
of
am
the
not a
characters.
number. Like the oh my god, so many things. And one of the great things about like paying attention to like pop culture too is like The Simpsons did a thing about
Yes.
over before I knew what The Prisoner was. So like once I watched The Prisoner and like I saw one episode and I bought all the DVDs because that's
Yep.
where that's
Yeah, the Simpsons episode, they had like the bubble come out of the ground and like smother Hans Moleman.
Yeah,
I actually
exactly.
got introduced. I got introduced to The Prisoner because I went to college at Mount Winchester Community College with this guy, Bret, and I actually spent the extra $2 a month to get Sci-Fi Channel on my cable, and they had, because they were desperate for sci-fi programming, they had The Prisoner on, so I watched all the Prisoner shows, and it was like,
Awesome.
yes,
Right, yeah. It was so
great to be a nerd in the 90s.
Oh my god, it was the golden.
I loved sci-fi because I could watch Farscape.
Oh,
Farscape.
It's so good.
Really good.
that
Really,
show was
like,
the balls.
Ahead
Oh.
of its time.
And I was so mad that I didn't watch it when it was on. I caught it later, and I was like, "Why didn't
I saw it on
anyone
Sci-Fi.
tell me?"
Sometimes
what
it's the
was
way.
happening?
Sometimes
Did
it's
you
the
read
way, you know.
I actually went and read the graphic novels that come after the show,
Oh.
There was a big moment.
where they have a baby. It gets really tapped because it's graphic novels and they can
Yeah,
just
of
do whatever
course.
the hell they want.
Mhm.
But I read all the graphic novels afterwards as well.
That's
So good.
great.
So hardcore Farscape fan.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Number one, baby. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Sci-Fi had a lot of good shows for a while. They had like Eureka. They had
Did what?
Eureka. You know the show where like
Yes.
the scientists in the town?
Yep.
That was an interesting show.
Oh, I
Yes.
remember that. I didn't watch too much of it, but
Yes, you got to think about that show next week when we have daylight savings time.
Oh gosh, I forgot that was coming up.
Isn't that the show that they didn't do daylight savings time?
Oh yeah. I kind of remember that.
Lousy farmers.
That's how I feel in the spring with it.
I
I
know.
want to get up.
Gonna lose an hour.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like
You just
farmers
lost
were
1
like,
hour
"Oh,
of your life.
thank God.
How does it feel?
Exactly.
Clocks
No,
are different now.
I'm sorry, that's not Eureka. It's Erie, Indiana was the show.
Oh,
Where they
okay.
did-
I remember that. That was a great
Totally
show.
mixed up my shows.
That's
It was
okay.
Erie, Indiana.
Yeah,
They
that was
kinda
the one that had
blend.
they had an Elvis living in town, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
They had an
I
Elvis
love that.
No,
I
That show
remember.
was weird.
I know what. There's another show that's a little bit off sci-fi, but it was a little fantasy related. The Adventures of Britsco County Jr.
Oh
That was a
yes,
great
I
show.
watched
That was on for one season on Fox. It had
Bruce
Why do I
Campbell.
always- why do I always
Bruce
like
Campbell.
Bruce Campbell?
Yeah,
I
it was
always
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell in it. Fantastic show. It's a Western show where they'd have like inventors creating 20th century items.
The one episode I
Yes.
remember that is they had John Austin on an episode, and I think they were flying a Zeppelin that was
Yep.
like being powered by helium. So all their voices were getting really high while they were in the Zeppelin. So you have like Bruce Campbell trying to speak like these dramatic lines, but it's like in this like Mickey Mouse sounding or Alvin and the Chipmunk sounding voice.
Oh man, that's.
I am such a fan of his, and I have never seen that show. Actually.
Oh, you've never seen that
show? I need
show?
to. I mean, I have seen Burn Notice. I think all the way through twice.
Wow.
And then I watched the new horror series.
Oh, Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Ash versus the Evil Dead. That was good.
Evil Dead. I watched that as well.
Yeah.
That is an untapped gem.
I'm a huge fan of his, but I've never seen his old show.
You're definitely gonna have
that
to see
one.
That
And Jack of All Trades was kind of fun.
Jack of All Trades was fun.
Yeah.
Wasn't he? He was in Xena too. Like he had a.
Yeah, he was in Xena.
Yes. Yeah, I remember.
Xena Warrior Princess.
Excellent show.
I'd like to see Xena Warrior Princess come back.
I would too. I would totally watch a reboot.
I would totally like. Who would be a good catch for that show though?
I want to see the remake of Cleopatra 28.
Yes.
2025, 25. Yeah, okay.
That show was wild. It was bonkers.
It had the best writing.
Had a great.
I think the problem now is that if it came back, it would be like mainstream, not weird syndicated, and they would try to like make more sense than it did before. And I think the whole thing about that show is that it didn't take itself seriously at all.
Oh yeah.
And that's what made it work as much. I think if you try to mainstream that show, you lose something with it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's true. I think you're right.
Well, I mean, for example, shows like Knight Rider, they've tried to bring that show back so many times, and it's such a time capsule for the '80s that there's no way you could bring that show back as good as it was.
But it's Nightboat, the crime-solving boat.
There's always a river.
No, that was Ripped. That show was called Riptide, Brett.
Oh, Riptide.
I liked the rebirth of MacGyver, though.
I haven't seen too much of that. I heard it's good, though.
I haven't watched it like the last couple of years. I watched like the first 3 or 4 seasons, I would say, and I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, it's a re-envisioning of it. You know, it's not exactly the same.
Sort of like what they did with Battlestar Galactica, where they didn't really, it wasn't an offshoot from the original series. It was sort of a reboot, reimagining. Yeah, definitely.
And I really enjoyed it. And I watched all the old MacGyvers. I mean, I was a huge fan of MacGyver.
Oh, and apparently they're also bringing back Walker, Texas Ranger. Why?
No.
I don't know.
That looks terrible. That looks terrible.
Who's doing
playing him?
Who's the character? Who's the guy who was in Supernatural? He's one of the actors.
Oh, no.
I never watched that show.
Supernatural was good.
Yeah, my wife actually.
We haven't watched much of it, but like what we saw, we liked.
I saw like 1 or 2 episodes, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" I started from the beginning. I like watched 1 or 2 episodes, and I went, "I don't like this."
It just didn't strike you.
It's just the problem. The problem is there's so much TV now. It's hard to keep up with it all.
Oh yeah.
It is.
You know, when we were kids or we were growing up, we didn't have to live in a DVR society. We could binge everything. You had to literally be at the TV at the time it was on, or you were screwed. If you wanted to see Greatest American Hero, you had to see it at when Greatest American Hero was on.
Right,
unless your family had a VCR and you were the only one who could program it.
Yeah, because you were the only one who knew how to program it.
Right.
You hope the power didn't go off and reset the clock to 12.
Again, AV nerd here. Like
you knew it.
I had to be the one.
Squeak, squeak.
Oh my God, my grandmother, she had a Laserdisc player. Like my grandfather died, and like she went to Lechmere to get a new TV, and she got stuck with the worst, the most like slick salesman in the world. And she came home with like a TV tuner, Laserdisc player, the whole thing, and her remote literally had more buttons than a space shuttle had.
Oh, poor grandma.
My poor grandmother. I mean, like, what's this thing says self-destruct on it?
Actually, I had an aunt who had Betamax.
Oh wow!
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah, that's good.
That's when you know you're the real AV geek.
Oh
exactly.
No, Beta.
Betamax.
It's smaller, the quality's higher.
Yep.
Ugh.
That's true.
You know,
bigger and cheaper.
When I was When I was working in television professionally back in '99 when I first started out, that was how you knew you were a professional, was if you shot with a Beta Cam SP, and those cameras cost like 50 grand. They were expensive. Now, high definition.
Right,
8K.
exactly.
Get a
Exactly.
Samsung.
Right on.
And that's part of the reason why I really don't do photography professionally anymore, is because, you know, I'd have my nice long 70mm, 200mm lens shooting a wedding, and some jackass with an iPhone jumps up in front of me.
This is why I never got into digital editing. I liked being in the darkroom.
Yeah.
I liked doing all that kind of stuff, and it died.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a passion for editing on my computer screen or
figuring
out how to use a digital camera.
I mean, I did digital photography and I did digital video for a while, and same sentiment. The biggest problem was the moment you walked out of the venue, all those people had those photos already up on Facebook and Instagram.
Yep.
And like I felt like Wile E. Coyote chasing the Roadrunner, because then you'd have clients, you'd have the clients going, "Why am I paying you this much money to do a 30-second spot?" I don't know, because I know how to write and voice over your spot so it can sound good and look good and have music and have graphics and all this other stuff. And then like they'd be like, "Yeah, well, I'm going to have my son do it with his iPhone."
Oh boy.
Thanks, jackass.
Some places, a couple weddings I've been to recently, they have made the decision to not allow phone pictures during the ceremony, or they'll say, okay, during this time, sit your behind down, you cannot do it. And it's specifically because they made that decision. And this is, again, it's pretty recent, I think, that they wanted their professional photographers to have access and free good shots of everything. And I was like, I get it. Like, I understand that's a good idea. Then they're going to get the high quality that they paid for.
Like so many things, like when you were a guest at the wedding, you were actually a part of the wedding.
Yeah.
You know, and so like the photography needs, like, you are subject, not the photographer.
Right,
You
right.
should be in there in the moment. It's your friend's wedding. Jeez.
Exactly.
Put the phone down.
Right.
Stop blogging.
Stop blogging. Sit there and cry like you're supposed to.
Get the fuck off Facebook.
Yeah. At wedding, people cry LOL.
Yes. Hashtag wedding fail.
Hashtag.
Yeah.
Hashtag
release.
corned beef again. Oh boy. What a night. This is one way of spending a Saturday night, that's for sure.
It
Wow.
is.
I think we got about at least 2 or 3 hours, at least 2 hours worth of an episode, so we could split this up into a 2-parter.
Yeah, let's do another 2 or 3 hours. Why don't we do that?
Brian and I are standing. I can't do it. And I
Riptide.
will tell you.
Let's talk about Riptide.
I'm
Yes.
Airwolf, let's go.
Oh, Airwolf.
Just kidding.
Let's
Talk
talk
about
about
a Blue
A-Team.
Thunder television show, or did I just imagine that?
let's talk about Manimal.
Animal.
Actually, Brian, you mentioned Gotcha Man earlier. I remember that as Battle of the Planets.
Out of the Planets. Yeah,
Yep.
that's how it was when I was a kid too, and I learned later. I
Force
spent my
5.
entire life trying to figure out what that was because I only saw like 2 episodes and it never left me.
Me,
And
same
so I would
here.
ask people, I was like, "Are you a nerd? Do you like anime?" There was a show where these people had wings and like weird
Bird costumes,
looked
yeah.
like bird costumes, and they had a cool ship, and like they put this one kid in a chair and they tortured him, and it really bothered me.
This afternoon, my daughter was watching some anime on Netflix, and she was like, you're not really into the anime stuff, and I'm like, really?
Really? Let me put in
Robotech.
Overfiend.
Okay, how about Guy King? How about Captain Harlock? All that stuff.
Wow,
Captain
Captain
Harlock is so good.
Harlock
I need
is
to get another
a lot
Captain
of
A friend of mine started Anime Boston.
Oh,
Really?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I mean, I worked with him at Starship Video, which is how we became friends.
We should really have an
So
episode
cool.
about talking about the convention scene.
yeah.
and what
I
the
agree with
future
that.
is.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Because I think
I should not
especially
be part of that conversation.
you should.
I have never been to a convention.
You have? Oh my God!
No.
We're gonna bring you. Come on.
Yeah.
And you have to be in costume.
Well, here's,
heard that,
here's
Jamie?
the thing is that I actually have like severe anxiety, and it can get really exacerbated with being around crowds of people.
Oh.
And
Well, especially right now.
Yeah.
And now it's just ridiculous. I mean, now it's like non sequitur. but it also gets worse sometimes if I'm wearing a costume and then I feel self-conscious. So it's very like, I love the idea of it. I think about it and I'm like, oh yeah, I should totally do that. I love dressing up. Like, you know, like you guys were talking about cosplays and I was like, oh, like, you know, I've done like Halloween costumes, you know, that's about as far as I've gone. And I've dressed up as,
It's kind of like Halloween, only it's just a very big audience.
You know, you're not alone though. A lot of people in the convention world suffer from a lot of anxiety to the point where my friend and I are actually in an online support group for people who enjoy conventions but suffer from crowd anxiety. So this is not in no way like pressuring you, like you should go to it, but it's like a familiar thing to hear. Like my BFF who I go with is like, I always need time to take a break and go back to my hotel room. She gets like a strategically placed room to make sure that like she can go back when she needs a break. Anyway, it's like a whole thing at conventions.
I think of it as like therapy, the opportunity to be somebody else, you know, and that's a freeing thing. It's a very freeing thing because then you can just like, and not only that, but people aren't paying attention to you, they're paying attention to the character, and that's who you are, and everybody else is, and you feel like you're part of a group, you know?
It's true. And there's extra love too. Like I've never felt, it's not like at Halloween, it's like, yeah, everyone's wearing a costume, so it's socially acceptable. So that's like a thing. But then at the convention, it's like, I love the feeling of people being excited to see you.
Yes.
And delighted and accepting and happy. And it's just nice. I know not all conventions are like that, and each convention had, you know, some of them can get a certain type of way, but normally what I've been to has been very positive.
Oh yeah.
I've only been to Dragon Con, I think. I went to an anime convention that was in a hotel I was staying in for work, and they just happened to be like a small anime convention there, and I was like, oh, cool. I'm like here for work. I'm going to go to this convention, but other than that, I think I've only been to Dragon Con.
Really?
I think probably the best thing to do is if you aren't familiar with going to conventions, just pick one of the smaller ones to go to, like the localer ones that we actually have here in New England. We
used to be a great one for that.
I mean, I think that would be a necessary element considering I have a little kid at home. So I can't really, you know, going away for the weekend isn't really a thing.
The other thing too is I bring my kids with me.
Well, how old's your kids though? Your kids are older, right?
I have a 6-year-old. Well, we were doing this when she was younger, and right now she's 9. We brought her when she was 6, and she gets to see the action. Like, I'll tell you the truth. My 6-year-old, she was big into the Wonder Woman movie when it came out, and so we went to the convention, and I was dressed up as one of the Orville guys, and my wife was Indiana Jones, and my daughter was dressed up as Star Trek, and my daughter, we had a Halloween costume of Wonder Woman. And she was just we went to the convention, and we had a friend of mine that's a cosplayer. Her name's Jamie Dolan, and she does a lot of charity work for Autism Speaks and everything else like that. And she just walks right in front of my daughter, and she saw Jamie dressed up in this Wonder Woman, 2017 costume. Perfect, looked absolutely like the movie, and my daughter would just drop her eye, just dropped. She's like, oh. It's like, this is a live action figure in front of me. This is an actual Wonder Woman in front of me.
It's funny. I had a little bit of that experience because I have the old man Luke costume, the white one, and Sid and I think we went to Rhode Island Comic-Con, and my hearing's not the greatest. So, and Sid's right next to me, and all of a sudden, I guess this little girl sitting goes, "Hi, Luke Skywalker," and I don't hear it, and Sid goes, "Bret," and it's like, what? It's like, "Oh, hi," and she's got like a jacket that says Rebel Scum on it, and I wish I'd gotten a picture with her, but her and her dad were there, and it was just kind of nice because she just recognized me as Luke Skywalker. So there is that element to it. Like
at Dragon Con, there are a lot of kids too. They only during the day, like that's like kind of a cutoff, and then in the evening, like that's adults and the kids are in bed and all that kind of good stuff. But
Dragon Con after hour works every time.
Exactly.
But like, so she got a picture with Jamie, and the smile on her face is just beaming from ear to ear. And it's just that experience. And, that was the thing. She got, and we do it every single time he can. You know, we actually dressed her up as BB-8 one time.
That's so funny.
We had like pillows, and we had the little helmet, and my older daughter was Ray, which was funny.
Cute.
And the girl who did the voice for Jem actually saw her.
Oh, we met her.
Oh my God, she's so cute, and like she loved it. So yeah, I think it's a great family atmosphere.
I had to read Good Night Darth Vader tonight before she went to bed.
Oh,
and
sweet.
she calls Chewbacca Chewbacca. He's like the cutest thing in the whole world.
You really
So
got it. You
adorable.
should bring her to a convention, because I'll tell you the
Right.
truth.
Yeah.
When she's
She's
a
only
little
3
older.
right now, so we might wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, 3's a bit young, but you know what? Honestly, that moment, that was a real nerd dad moment, if I can, to see my kids just like completely freak out when they see that. It was just like, wow, she's seeing a hero. You know, that's the important thing.
Definitely people that bring infants to Dragon Con.
They
are.
Dress them up and like.
Oh God, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like.
It's an ongoing discussion though between our friend Lynn, who has a baby.
Oh,
Like
okay.
how old are we going to let Ollie get before we take him to a con?
right.
Like, because there are diapers. It's a thing. Like,
Yep.
As an adult, you can only enjoy so much when the baby's that little.
But the great thing is, if you get a con room, then like your hotel room is there in the convention. You just go upstairs.
Well, I've seen some parents do some creative things with their kids where they had like a stroller made out to look like the Batmobile.
Yeah. That's fun.
That's really awesome.
I mean, that's just parenting done right.
Agreed.
I mean, I was telling a person I know that they should get like a Barbie Jeep and paint it up to look like the Jurassic Park Jeep. And then their kid can drive the little the Barbie Jeep, like the Jurassic Park Jeep and the thing.
That's a great idea.
And you can wear a T-Rex costume behind them and chase them.
Yeah. The inflatable T-Rex crew. There's
Actually, my daughter wouldn't be okay with that. She would need to be the T-Rex.
Oh.
T-Rex is her favorite. And she runs around the house screaming that she's a T-Rex right now.
When you say T-Rex, you mean the dinosaur, not the rock musician.
Not Mark Bolan.
Yeah, not Mark
It's
Bolan.
definitely not Mark Bolan. Yeah. Well, we can't use up. We shouldn't use up all our cosplay. Spins.
Yeah,
I know.
we need to make an
Another
episode about this.
Yeah.
We're gonna make a separate
We will.
episode for this.
I'm totally
All right.
expecting, if we get a con this year in Labor Day, to see Baby Yodas in.
Oh yeah.
There's gonna be some Baby Yodas that have been made over the last year, I'm sure.
Totally, and hopefully the kids will not outgrow.
Well,
them.
we took up crochet, so we've been kind of doing crocheting Baby Yoda costumes the whole year.
Oh, there you go.
So my daughter was born 3 years ago. So this was before Baby Yoda. But so when I was pregnant, we didn't have a name because we didn't know if she was a boy or a girl. And so we called her Baby Yoda.
No kidding.
That's
Wow.
funny.
It was really
That's
her
funny.
nickname.
You know
And
why?
we have
There's
a
an
T-shirt that says Baby Yoda.
there's an algorithm out there that found that term and they
Probably.
stole it from you.
Most likely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was a Google search. Did you do a Google search? Oh man, somebody saw it.
I don't know, but like that's literally what we called her.
Some executive behind a desk going, yeah, you kind of need to have a name here, baby.
Yeah, Baby
something,
Yoda, that sounds good.
Google
Baby Green
Trends.
Pants.
Star Wars.
Hey, what about this girl, Lisa Billings? She's got she got a name,
Yeah, we're
Baby
looking on
Yoda.
Facebook.
Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They built a whole show around it.
Cigar.
You talk to anybody about the Star Wars, they like Boba Fett and they like Yoda. That's it.
And maybe Chewbacca.
Don't forget about those Ewoks.
And the 2 droids. They like the 2 droids too.
Screw that Jar Jar, though. Nobody likes him.
Yeah, nobody likes Jar Jar anymore.
Yeah. On behalf of Andrew, Lisa, Brian, and Ainsley, thank you for listening to the Mental Suppository. Until next week, this is Bret Herholtz saying,
I knew I'd disturb you.
The Mental Suppository has been produced by Bret Herholtz and Jamie Billings and distributed by M Media Project. Theme music generously donated by Mr. B, the Gentleman Rhymer. Visit his webpage at gentlemanrhymer.com. We would love to hear from our fans. Email us at mentalsuppository@gmail.com.